3 days to talk about myself.
No, the summarized version, sir.
Lolu, how are you? Good evening. Good to see you again in a while. Huh? Hi, Lolu. Hi, everyone. My name is Udeme Ufot. I am Group Managing Director, SO&U. I started my career in a small agency called Desmark Advertising in Calabar after graduating from
Udeme, I think we should thank these people for allowing us to see so close and yet so far.
Social distancing is working.
I know.
Discipline. I graduated BA Industrial Design from Ahmadu Bello University. Finished top of my class, won the Joe Adeka Prize for the department. Started my career in Desmark Advertising in Calabar, moved thereafter to Insight Communication, where I worked for 5 years, living as a group, as a Deputy Creative Director Arts. I had a brief stint, and then KSAS, now called DDB, as Creative Director, barely 6 months. From there, I moved on to co-founder SO&U with some of my former Insight colleagues. It's been 30 years of SO&U now, and we thank God for His grace that we've seen some of the most outstanding brand communication work we've been able to do in the period. You really cannot talk about Guaranteed Trust Bank without the 12 years of impact that we made to create that brand for Guaranteed Trust Bank. The last 18 years have also been spent moving on to Access Bank. We've also had quite a long tenure with for Guinness, Globacom, and others. We have to work on Unilever and Rexona. So that is me. I like what I do. Advertising was my first choice, despite all my father's pressures to be a lawyer. Maybe I would have lived an easier life and made more money, but here we are. I mean, I'm enjoying myself, and there's always a price for having fun, you know. There's a price to pay for choosing to do what I enjoy doing, you know. But it's been fun this 35, let me say more like 37 years of practice. And so when Agon says is it the grandfathers or whatever of advertising, it's a bit embarrassing. I think maybe I'm just unlucky that my former boss, Mr. Biodu Shobanjo, did not make it. I would have been more comfortable. So putting me and Lolu here, they're really showcasing us. And when I look at Lolu's head, I look at my own head in reflection too, we've come a long way. It does appear that this profession hates afros, you know, because many of us started with afro haircuts, and now there's no hair to show, you know. So I'm married to Dorothy Ufot. She's a lawyer, arbitrator, senior advocate of Nigeria, and we have 2 kids. I think the interesting thing we faced here is that despite all my appeals, my son has insisted on coming into advertising. He's a stubborn fellow like me. And on the female front too, my daughter has also chosen to go into law like her mother. So we have an equally divided house, well located. So and that gives you a hint as to how I work and play. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That's an interesting one. I may say I can say that you have the best of both worlds. Your father wanted you to be a lawyer, but you married a lawyer, so you still kind of satisfied his wishes for him. And it's interesting that the 2 gentlemen that we have this evening are both married to lawyers. I don't know if they had a meeting to decide that. Oh, it looks like we lost Mr. Akinwunmi. I don't know if they had a meeting to decide that. Well, we'll see when Mr. Akinwunmi comes back and speaks to us. So while we wait for him, I'd like Ademola to introduce the brief faculty. While some of us here are used to the brief faculty, not everyone is, and we have some people who are joining us for the first time. So if Ademola will please, welcome back, Mr. Akinwunmi. We lost you there for a while. Ademola will do an introduction of the brief faculty before we hear from you.
Thank you, Agbons. Good evening, sirs. GMD, hey, good evening, sir. Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Long time no see.
Yes, sir. And good evening, sir, Mr. Akinwunmi. Your mic is muted. Okay, so we would want to start from, Agbons, you talked about working with Mr. Akinwunmi. I had the privilege of working with GMD, and I learned a lot from him, while I was with SO&U. So briefly, I will do an introduction of the brief faculty. And this is, like she said, many of us here are very familiar with brief faculty, but for the sake of users, whom we have identified as ancestors, marketing communication ancestors. That has been the word going around all the while that we planned this, and it's really our, honor and privilege to have you both join us today, sir. There's so much regard, so much reference of you and your persons and what you have achieved for the industry. So brief faculty is a professional community. That's why we set it up. And it's the community where the professionals in marketing and marketing communications come together, they interact, they learn, and they collaborate to create some wonderful works and exchange ideas. It was founded in 2018. That was February 2018. And ever since, we've been running virtual sessions and some offline sessions as well. And we've had, for the while, we've had nothing less than about 250 younger practitioners, gaining knowledge and being inspired by people who are senior and are also, helping out as faculties. So we are so grateful to have you today, sir. And essentially what we wanted to do, why this was set up, it's just because of these kind of sessions where we can have you, professionals, rooted professionals, and we can aggregate and come together to discuss with younger people so that we can draw the right inspiration, we can draw the right knowledge and gain, leverage and be the best in what we do. So essentially, that's why we set this up, and we are grateful and thankful that you are joining us today, sir. And I will quickly just hand over to Agbon so that we don't take much of our time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Agbon,
Demola.
over to you. Yeah.
Thank you, Demola. Thank you, everyone. Do we have Mr. Akinwunmi back?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sir. So I was just saying before we lost you there that I'm not sure why both of you married lawyers. Maybe you want to tell us the meeting you had when you were deciding on that factor. Or it's probably that maybe it helps you think more as creative personnel. Maybe you will share that when you talk to us. Okay, sir. Mr. Akinwunmi, you can go ahead and tell us about yourself in 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'd like to first of all thank you for inviting me to this session, and it's nice to see Udeme again after a long time. Advertising is all I've done, and I joined. I started with Lintas in 1982, and I always say that I've been extremely fortunate to have worked in such a professional environment under extremely professional and disciplined people. Of course, working in Lintas, at that time, Lintas must have controlled between 60 and 70% of the advertising business in Nigeria. So this meant that to virtually all the key businesses in Nigeria, I worked on Udeme, I worked on Guinness, I worked on Nigerian Breweries, I worked on UAC, I worked on virtually every client that Lintas had. I left Lintas in 1988 and moved to a smaller agency known as Promocell. It was to be the great agency for a couple of years. I went in as a client service and media director. And it was interesting in the sense that being a smaller agency, the operation there, of course, was different. A lot of things that we took for granted in Lintas, you had to obtain by grit. It was a good period for me. It was a great period of learning. And I left in I 19. I think I should mention it at this point since Udeme is here. When I was going to leave Lintas, and it was certain I was leaving, the only agency head I spoke to, of course, was Udeme, who received me very warmly. SO&U was doing amazing. They still do amazing job, by the way. They were doing an amazing job, and they were clearly my target in terms of who do you really like what they're doing in the business. So he received me warmly, showed me, those were the days of very big computers and all that, showed me what they were doing, and it was quite nice. 2 or 3 months after that, we set up Prima Garnet. It's been interesting. And virtually everything Udeme has done, I think I have, except the MFR. Maybe I'll be lucky to get that one of these days. Both of us. He was ahead of me in being the president of AAA, and I was president of AAA. And later I was AppCon chairman. I served also in the rebranding project, AppCon chairman. Prima Garnet was different, because people always ask, why did you leave Promosal? I left Promosal because I want to fulfill a personal ambition. I thought certain things could be done very differently. And if I wasn't able to achieve them in Promosal, at least I had an opportunity to go out and try. And that's why we set out with Prima Garnet with some of the people in the industry, then Tsuji, Olubodi, and and we still keep having fun. There have been many challenges in the industry, but I'm enjoying myself tremendously. I've veered a little, still within the bigger industry. I lecture at the Pan Atlantic University. I teach at, but generally I'd like to say that I've had a fulfilling career since 1982, and even though, like Udeme said, advertising doesn't make too much money, I think I'm quite happy in it, and I probably would do it all over again.
Interesting. Thank you very much, sir. You've actually answered one question.
Agbons, we lost you. We may just have to hold on till we get Agbons back.
No, there was a power outage. I'm sorry. I'm back.
All right, you're welcome, sir. But just when you got back, Agbons also left.
Uh-oh. Must be a national power crash.
Okay. Okay, I will just...
Did you lose power too? Was there a power failure in your place?
There was power failure, actually. There was power failure. Right now, I think everybody's running on generator now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will just take over before Agbons joins back in. Okay, Agbons, welcome back. I was almost taking over your role. You're muted, Agbons.
Okay, so sorry for that breaking transmission. So I was just saying that I know that a lot of successful people are driven by things other than money, and I'm not sure that the reason why you stepped out of where you were working to go and found SO&U was because of money. But if it is, you can share with us. But what was that passion? What drove you to step out to say, let me start another agency? What were you looking to achieve?
Well, thank you, Agbons. When you've had 30 years of doing what you like doing, and you also look back as to why you did what you did. Maybe more importantly, at the time that we stepped out, I was very, very restless. Hello?
Go ahead, sir. I've muted the person. The person.
I got to a stage where I worked and I felt that my creative thoughts were not having adequate opportunity to express themselves. You know, you sit back in the creative department, you do work, and accounts managers need to go sell your ideas. And sometimes in my last days in Insights, I gotten to a point where I did not just create my communication programs, I went out to sell them. In fact, sometimes to be sure I got the brief right, I had to go take the brief myself. You know, sometimes even write the brief to myself. So I became quite restless. I thought that there was a different way to do this, a better way to do this. And mind you, Insight was an outstanding place to work, a great training ground. I worked with the best. I was hugely challenged. And I remember the words of Mr. Biodi Shobanjo the day he interviewed me. I was negotiating my salary. He said to me, when I put it to him that I was technically taking a pay cut to join Insights. And he said to me, he was giving me the opportunity to be a small fish in a big pond. That where I was in Denmark, I was this big fish in a very tiny pond. Come and grow in Insight. And that's exactly what happened. So I was hugely challenged. But as I am, after 5 years, I began to see that there were things I could do, I wanted to do differently on my own. And the hunger grew, and so I moved on. So let me say simply, I went out to look for fame. I wanted to be famous. I read about advertising people. I heard about the likes of Ogilvy, the likes of John Haggerty. Even the sergeant, I said, look, man, why can't I be as famous and well known as they are? So I wanted to be famous. But I also saw, I mean, the likes of Martin Sorrell. I mean, my wife began to respect advertising the day she saw a documentary on Martin Sorrell. Here was this guy that was so successful running an agency. So I wanted to be also, you know, comfortable. So, but I also wanted to have fun. So when I look back and I put in totality the things that drove me to bring SO&U to life, I call them the 3 Fs. I was in pursuit of fame. I wanted to be famous. I wanted to make a fortune, be comfortable. I wanted to have fun while doing that. Does that capture it?
Succinctly, sir.
Thank you.
I love that. And I'm probably going to copy it. In pursuit of fame, fortune, and fun. Interesting. Mr. Akinwunmi, sir, can you share with us?
Sure. I'd had I would say, really brilliant career in Lintas. I joined in 82 as a training. And by 1986, I was already a senior manager, which meant I'd had about 3 or 4 promotions in a period of enjoying myself. Then an opportunity, of course, came to play a bigger role in a smaller agency, but a very professional agency still, Promoserve, and I went, and you know, and as they say, the rest of it is history. But for Promoserve, I'm sorry, for Prima Garnet, like I mentioned during my introduction, what drove the dream? What drove the dream was to have an opportunity to actualize what I felt I couldn't while I was in Promoserve. I was fairly young in Promoserve. I was on the board before I was 30 and all that, but there were fundamental issues that we didn't quite agree on, and I felt that except if I went out, there would be issues, and I didn't want to remain there. And I mean, as much as I was enjoying myself and having fun, so it was principally for this reason, and again because I felt things could be done. That was an era when agencies like LTC, like SO&U had just come in, and the entire industry was really buzzing, and I felt, look, that is where I should be playing. That is the kind of thing I should be doing. So primarily it was for professional fulfillment. Part of it also, which I may not want to mention here, also had to do with the whole issue of moral fulfillment as well. And I felt, well, if I could make a little money along the way while all of this was happening, it wouldn't be a bad idea at all. And thank God, Prima Garnet gave us the opportunity we were able to do the things that I felt that, we could do. We were daring, we were running the kinds of ads that were creating the buzz, attracting attention. And we were also able to maintain some of the moral issues that we wanted to keep. And finally, I don't think we really can complain. God has been good to us. We've been able to put some pocket and literally to put some food on the table as well.
Interesting. Thank you, sirs. You see why we call you the ancestors? You said you started in 1982 when some people here were reborn. So it's okay that we call you the ancestors of marketing communications. Okay, moving on now. What were your most difficult challenges in running an agency? And I'll ask Mr. Ufot that, and immediately after Mr. Ufot, Mr. Akinwunmi can answer. What were your most difficult challenges in running an agency?
I think when I look back today, there were three key challenges for me. The first and most obvious one was money. I mean, we were hot on ideas, big on vision, great dreams, we were so confident on what we could do, but there was no money. I mean, all that we had between the three of us, Sage, Julia Oku, and myself, was some savings I put away, about 60K. And so starting an agency, even at that time, with 60,000 Naira, wasn't a lot to go by. So for over 6 months, the agency had no telephone. We had no furniture. All the furniture we had to use was my dining table that my wife lent to us. We put up the dining table in the boardroom, and all of us walked around that dining table. We couldn't afford to pay for blinds. And sometimes too, with no money in your pocket, your confidence can be shaken. You can be quite scared. But the most powerful thing we had going was that we felt we were very talented. I had on my team someone who was very young, very new in advertising, but had tremendous potential. And for Julia Oku, being new on the scene meant she was bringing a flavor to copywriting that the industry wasn't used to. And that helped us to have a new niche in copywriting and the advertising industry that was a uniquely SO&U copywriting style. Nice storytelling, great narratives. So we had that going for us. I also had Demi Sagi, who was head of art. These were my joint creative directors. And Demi Sagi had a unique art directional style, whereby every advertising layout was a piece of artwork for him. It was brilliant. So we had this thing about use of space that really drew the consumer's attention to the ad. But, and here I was, having crisscrossed creative departments, production, brand management in Insight, and my brief stint in Caesars. So we were very confident. And when it came to skills, when it came to delivering the work, we had what it would take. But how do we get the clients? How do we even get the business going? So money was a problem. How do we get it? And we were very, very wary of the risk of bringing on board powerful investors who may actually dilute us out. So you would have an agency by name, but have no control, because the money was in the hands of your external investors who had more control, who had more, and they would direct. You have little to say how the agency will be run. So you'd be essentially an employee in the agency. That was so, funding was one problem. And then all of us, Julia was a copywriter, Sagi was an art director, and oh, by the way, I was also an art director by background. So here you had an agency populated by all creative people who never really had the opportunity to engage with clients. So how do we go marketing for clients? That was a bit of a problem at the initial stage. And then finally, because we were the backroom guys who just got the job done, never got exposed, our business skills were really limited. We had to learn on the go, began to run before we could even crawl. But of course, one thing we learned along the way was that business success or failure is not predicated on what you lack. It's not about what you know. If you lack something and you know you lack it, you know where to get it. So we knew we didn't have money, but we knew how to get money, because we said if the work was good enough, we'd attract enough clients to give us business and pay us good money. And they'll be too happy to pay us, even in advance. We had clients at the beginning who were comfortable to pay us for campaigns, sometimes 3 months in advance. So we built the agency on credit. We didn't have money. We were called the hire purchase and IOU agency because there was no money. Everything was hire purchase, negotiate. Even the furniture in the office was a unique situation. We told the furniture dealer, we don't have money to buy your furniture, but we have space to keep it. So why keep your furniture, the same furniture in your showroom for so long? Move the furniture into our office. We'll use it. As we use it, we pay you. And then people will come and see it and also ask us, where did you get the furniture from? We advertise it for you. So we took the furniture and spent the next 8 to 12 months paying for the furniture. That's the same way we bought our cars. So money was a problem, but we found a way around it. Even in terms of business management, we knew that there was a way out. I went to Lagos Business School. The CEP program was an eye-opener in a mini MBA to get you to understand how to run a business and how to lead your team. So I'll say to you, in summary, funding was a problem. Source of clients was a problem because of our backgrounds. And then finally, of course, our poor business skills that we needed to improve upon.
Money, source of clients, and poor business skills. Mr. Akinwunmi, please share your experience with us.
Well, I don't know if my wife would have allowed me to bring a dining table, but I did bring 1 or 2 dining chairs until our furniture were delivered. We had basically three challenges that we faced, and I would say generally that we still face in the agency, and I suppose this cuts across the entire industry. The first one for us was talent. How were we going to be able to attract and retain very, very good people, considering that we didn't have too much money to pay them? And don't forget that the agency side, the client marketing and corporate communication side, everyone fishes from the same pool. So there's a whole lot of pressure on talent. It's always been that way, and it is still this way. So for us, it's been an issue. How do you attract good people, number one? Then how do you retain them? Somebody comes in, and a few months later, they come into your office and apologize that, sorry, Lolu, I have to go for this and that. And so talent has always been an issue, retaining, attracting them and retaining them. The second one, of course, was what I'd like to call clash of cultures. Clash of cultures. And when I say clash of cultures, we as an agency had, and we still have, a way we work, the things we believe in, corporate commitments and all. On the other side, you've got clients, some clients, not all of them, whose operating style and cultures differ from yours. So what do? And this can run across many things. Some of the things they want to do, some of the things they even want you to do, things that because of your own type of culture, you cannot do. And inevitably, there's a clash. Either you give up the business or whatever. At the end of the day, inevitably, there will be casualties. We suffered quite a few casualties, but thank God that we were able to survive this clash of cultures. Of course, over time, people would get to know what type of agency that you are, and the pressure would reduce from time to time. The third one has been the operating environment for us. Everything from government regulations to the management. So, I mean, you've got a client that is good and things are going on well, and suddenly there's a new budget and everything crashes every plan that they have made. So the uncertainty within the environment is one thing that has hugely affected us. Somebody who's working well with you, the head of an organization, is moved away. We had a big, I'll tell you a little story. We had a big issue with a multinational telco. We were doing quite well when foreigners were managing it. And then suddenly there was a change of ownership and stuff. And then the new people and things began, to decline. So basically, if you look at it, we've had challenges in the area of talent, identifying good talent, bringing them in and retaining them. Secondly, we've had to manage clashes in culture, what we believe in, what other people believe in. Many times you don't believe in the same thing. And because you don't want to compromise, something would have to give. And thirdly, the operating environment, the government policies or lack of policies, and so many things within this environment that make doing business so difficult, so challenging. Sometimes I will go for a board meeting of Ogilvy Africa, and I will listen to my colleagues, the things that they will take for granted. One day they said, Lolu, see, we've seen your books. Your clients are owing you so much. Why aren't they paying according to the 1 month or 3 month agreement? Can't you take them to court? And I looked at them and I said, if you take them to court, that's the end of the business. Are they going to pay any extra after the due date? And I said, no. And so all of this, as agency managers, we've had to manage, and these are really some of the key challenges.
I can attest to a lot of them a lot of these things are still challenges today for a lot of agencies. Yeah, talent is still a big problem. People are still jumping from agencies to agencies. Clash of cultures is still, I think, is worse today than it was even maybe a few years ago. And then, of course, the operating environment is also such a big deal. Before we go on, I'd like to announce to everyone that this session is actually being recorded for our YouTube account, because we also send it back. People can actually replay. So especially for Mr. Akinwunmi and Mr. Udeme, please note that we are recording this, and I mean, it's proper for us to let you know. So we have a lot of young people who are here today. We have, over 70 people currently here. And there are a lot of young people who are, some of them are just entering the industry. Some of them have been in the industry for a while, but of course they would need advice and know how to pivot and, where to go from here. What are the 3 most important things you think that anybody who's serious in the agency, who's serious about growth, should have? What are the 3 most important qualities that you think anybody who is serious about growing a career in this industry should have? And I'll start with Mr. Ufot.
Thank you, Alphonse. We are in the creative business. So for me, the number one most critical quality is creativity. You must be someone that is creative, someone who can see common things through uncommon lenses and translate them accordingly. Someone who can see what others cannot see and then turn it around to make it interesting. So creativity, originality is key if you're going to thrive in this business. And when I talk about creativity, not just for those in the creative department, my view of creativity in advertising is that it cuts across the entire agency. So even in brand or account management, creativity is key. So for me, the number one quality for anyone coming into this industry has to be creativity. You must be creative. Number 2, I think Marcoms is one discipline where there's a great balancing of right brain and left brain thinking. Is where science and arts really meet in a very interesting way. As creative as you are, you must be strategic. Strategic thinking is key. I tell my art directors, we are not Picassos or Ben and Wanwus. The art direction you create is intended for a purpose, to sell. And so no matter how fantastic your art direction is, if it's unable to sell, the product or the idea. You wasted the client's money, wasted our time. In the same vein, I've told my copywriters, you guys are no showing cars or chino achebes. So when you write copy, don't forget, the intention is to sell. And so it takes a blend of high impact creativity and a strategic mindset to be able to craft communication that achieves the required purpose. But to make this happen, somebody must bring in the business. Somebody must retain the business. So a key glue, the key glue that holds all of these two elements for me together is your capacity to build and sustain relationships. It starts from the inside. An agency is a conglomeration of different kinds of people, different mindsets. And so therefore, if you're unable as a team leader, not to mention a managing director, to hold the team together and provide strong, focused leadership, and it will call for having the right interpersonal skills to push people along to do what they would normally not want to do. They would love to go home at 5 p.m. But here they are, at 9 p.m., they're still raring to go and say, oh, I know what we go do, and we go finish them. This night. If you don't finish, we're not going anywhere, we'll finish it. You need to be able to lead them through super inspiration. So interpersonal skills are important for you to be able to inspire your people, to help you achieve the sometimes perceived impossible. But on the outside, you must be able to network, build relationships, because you can't sit in the agency, not to mention sitting in your home, and know where the business is happening. You must be able to go out there, interact, build relationships, show what you can do, and, engage and bring the business. So in summary, 3 things: creativity, strategic thinking, and of course, great interpersonal skills. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Akinwunmi.
Yeah, for me, and I mean, I quite agree with Udeme. 3 qualities that are very important, in this business, and for this business to be successful are: 1, people, very good people; 2, system, and under this I'll put things like creativity and how the agency is run, professionalism, and thirdly, knowledge. And let me try and explain each one. People, the most important asset that any agency has really are the people. And that's why, when Udeme said all of them were working from a single room, working on a single table, sometimes I tell some of my colleagues in the office that, look, the entire agency can work from a single room, because our biggest assets are not the computers. They are not, we don't produce soap and toothpaste like Unilever or drinks like Nigeria. It's very important. And when we talk of people, we're talking of bringing in very good people, making sure that while they're on the job, they are trained and exposed to every opportunity that can increase their value. If the value isn't increasing, then definitely something is going to be wrong with the agency. And retaining them for as long as possible, creating the right environment for them, making them to want to stay well after 5:30, and making them to want to come in even if they have to over weekend, sacrificing because they can see that they are being treated right. Everything that's supposed to enhance their productivity is in place. The second one is what I have couched on the system, and this covers how the agency is run. Is it being professionally run, or is it just a cluster of people that are doing things just anyhow? Is it focused? Is it targeted? Is it something that by deliberate plan and choice and all, you have said, look, this is the direction that we want to follow in terms of creativity. This is the kind of value that we want to use in supporting are brands. So everything under the system, if you don't have the people, nothing can work. If the people are there who are talented and who are is wrong, or the system is not right, the system is not supporting, I mean, the kind of values that they want to display, then it's not going to work. And the third one is knowledge, and this is critical. The only reason a client will come to an agency is because they can see that you have something either which they don't have, or they don't have enough of it, or they don't have people that can do it. If they can, or if they could, in this case, I like to quote David Ogilvy, who said that, look, an agency should seek after knowledge the way a pig seeks after truffles. We are knowledge people. What we are selling is knowledge, superior knowledge, exciting knowledge, different knowledge, zany knowledge, all kinds of knowledge, but we are knowledge merchants. And we must invest in this. It's the third quality. If the knowledge is there, the advertising you are going to produce is going to be flat, it's going to be uninspiring, and worst, is not going to benefit the brand. And the only reason why we're there is to make sure that our brands are champions. So those are the three qualities that I see: very good people, system, that knowledge that's going to support the brands and make them the heroes in the marketplace.
Thank you very much, sir. I do know that, I mean, they're all of the points are very spot on. Knowledge is important because your agency can have a client from any of the industry. So if, for example, they bring something for you in medicine, you must know how to sell something in medicine. If they bring something for you in maybe the automobile industry, you must have knowledge of the automobile industry to be able to sell. Now, moving on from all you've told us, I know that both of you have absolutely no regrets in being in or having a career and building a career in the advertising industry. But what are the two most important things you think you would have done differently? What are the two things you think you would have done differently if you had the chance again?
Do I go?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
When I look back, I thank God, because I think I've been extremely blessed that most things that I've chosen to do, sometimes I don't understand, and I just get it right. I told a group I lectured some years ago that I'm the lucky man for whom God turned his foolishness into wisdom. So you do things that to the ordinary man it's foolish, but God has a different purpose for those things. So when I look back, there's really no regrets. But one thing I think I could have done differently, could have done better, was that probably I could have, one, diversified the organization much earlier. I left that too late. And it wasn't because the ideas did not come to me. Sometimes it was purely gut feeling. But in business, when you have a board, you must have the arguments to take your board to support you in a direction. But I don't think I had those arguments on time. And so my plan to diversify came a bit late. That's one. Secondly, maybe one could have been more investment focused. It's related. Because, one of the things I learned was that in agency business, money comes and money goes. And the key measure of your success, most of the time, is how much of the money that passes through the agency you can capture and use it to create value. Looking back today, I think that one could have created more value if I'd managed some of those funds with a longer term, view than what we did. That's it for me. Those two things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Akinwunmi.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to sound a little like Udeme. And if you're looking at regret, one major one, I'd like to talk about is that looking back, I wish we had managed finances better. You know, we hit the ground in 19, and by the end of our first year, we made a profit and we paid dividends. And that went on and on and on. And of course, no shareholder would ever complain if money was coming in and you were paying dividends and doing all of these things. But looking back with the kind of knowledge and experience that one has now, I think a whole lot of the money made during those periods could have gone into investments. They could have gone into other businesses. They could have gone into this and that. I see it as part of the learning process. The second thing I'd like to talk about is also slightly related, and that's the fact that there were a couple of things one could have done, but one prevaricated, you know, like investment. For example, looking back, I think it took us, we were not too quick in setting up corollary businesses, you know, media independence, support business 2 years, 3 years too late in setting them up, which meant that we lost a lot of opportunities. And I'll tell you something, and I'm sure at once you know this. One of the issues with most advertising people is usually we are very, very good professionals when it comes to things like finance, on our quote, creativity and all that. And I'm sure if you were to speak to many of our colleagues, the experience probably will be the same. So these are the two areas I think one could have managed. I mean, a lot of money came into the agency, and I think we would have managed them better. We didn't misspend them, but I think we could have invested them in things that we could look back at today and would say that, oh, that is really good. And, you know, adjunct to that, of course, is the fact that we could have gone in early, we could have gone into some types of investments to support the master investment, which is the main agency itself.
I totally agree with that. I think one of the first eye-openers I got when I first started working in the agency was that a lot of agencies didn't own the property where their offices were in. Like 90% of them were rented or leased. And because they had invested in maintenance and in making the place look better, every year the landlord comes and says, I've added X amount to it and you have to pay. You didn't have a choice. And of course, everybody also wanted to pay in the choice area, really. So like the whole of GRA basically is owned by agencies, but only a few of those agencies actually own these properties. And every year they put a new structure. They build structures inside the compound, even though those buildings aren't actually owned by them. So I totally understand when you said managing money better. And with the amount of money that these agencies bill, you know, that come through the coffers of the agency, they could easily afford to buy that in a year. And I've never been able to understand why most agencies don't bother to do that. Okay, so again, there are a lot of young people here who are looking to learn, which is actually why we're here. And to be honest with you, I've learned so many things. My sheet is full here. I'm writing everything down. I could actually even make another lecture and bill for this. You know, the secrets of being the, maybe I'll call it secrets of being maybe the top advertising guru in Nigeria and all of that. But moving on, so what one mistake have you made in a marketing campaign? You know, when marketing campaigns come out, people tend to say, this is nice and all of that. But I mean, there would have been cases where there was a big mistake where nobody saw, or maybe people saw, but it was quickly withdrawn. What one mistake have you made, and how did you correct it? Mr. Ufot, please.
Okay. Well, maybe for me, the mistake is not exactly on a campaign. Maybe more on a pitch. What was probably the most embarrassing experience of my life in the industry was a presentation to a confectionery client. Unfortunately for me, I had not bothered to cross-check the facts behind some piece of work that my then affiliate agency had shared with me. And such and such then had this very famous TV commercial that I would not give details on for obvious reasons. And that piece of work was celebrated as the most outstanding piece of work the agency had done. It had won many awards in Cannes. It was celebrated. And so when the local client that was related to this, it was an international brand, came to visit us. And it was an agent credentials presentation. And I felt that since such and such had done such a fantastic piece of work on this brand, it was so celebrated. The pivot of my presentation was to showcase this great masterpiece and to say to the clients, my affiliate partners did that for you. I can do the same and even better. And so halfway to the presentation, I was quite lyrical about this piece of work, and I went on and on and on and on. And this visiting client prospect said to me, Udeme, hang on. Just for your information, maybe you didn't get to understand better. That piece of work did not sell Jack. That piece of work won all the awards it won. But it did not give us 1% growth for our brand in the marketplace. And for me, I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed because I'd taken hook, line, and sinker what my colleagues had told me. And it was a major lesson that before you go and pitch your arguments with some, in quote, facts that you are putting on the table, you must research it and think it through. I was really embarrassed. And of course, that client, he didn't come back. He didn't come back. It was a big lesson for me that that was a big mistake. And so for me, when I go into a pitch these days, what I want to be sure of is that any facts that I intend to put on the table before a client must be checked and rechecked and challenged. In fact, sometimes we have someone on the agency team whose job is to continuously throw a spanner in the works. When we are hailing ourselves, we've cracked it, we've done it, let him ask uncomfortable questions. Questions that could even upset me as the managing director, but those questions must be asked. Because it's better to be embarrassed in-house than to be embarrassed in front of the clients. That's for me.
Thank you, Mr. Ufot. Mr. Akinwunmi.
Well, for me, I mean, I'm sure that there are several examples, but one I'll never forget. We had a lifetime opportunity to pitch a major telco. I mean, every agency in Nigeria would have given an arm and a leg to pitch this business, And we began to make all the arrangements. Incidentally, about the same time, we just hired a new creative director, someone I'd known for many years, who had worked in one or two good agencies. So, and I felt that strengthened our team substantially. Unfortunately, for this particular pitch, I think we left one or two loose ends, especially because I just assumed this guy had been a creative director in a major agency. Everything would be fine. And we had excellent materials, trust me, really good material. But then we got to the pitch, and what happened? We were timed, we were given time, and we were timed that we were supposed to keep, and the new creative director, I think, was supposed to speak for about 15 minutes, went on and didn't, he must have, I think he simply stopped speaking when he felt he had said enough, and I'm sure he must have spent up to 25 minutes. The only reason why I didn't get up to kick his butt was because I felt that would have made us to lose the pitch. I was angry. I'd never been that angry my whole life. I signaled to him. I winked at him. We did everything we could. He just went. And of course, because we were being timed, by the time he was done and other people needed to present their own portion, there was no time. And needless to say, from that point onward, the rest of the presentation had gone extremely sour. And so we came out and I said, why did you do that? And the guy was looking at me like, oh, what did I do? And, you know, I think one of my happiest days was when he parted from the agency. From that point onwards, I stopped taking anything for granted at all. If we're going to have a major pitch, I wanted to be sure that everybody played the role that they had to play. It was embarrassing. Even the client area where they told us we could have done a whole lot better. And so I think that is one that I can immediately remember now.
I'm sure he never took any other presentation again before he left the agency, or at least not a major one. Okay. From what is currently happening in the marketing communications agency, you've been there, you've done that, you know a lot of agencies, you know how they are faring. What do you think the agency, can do better? How do you think the agency can be better positioned? Marketing, and we're talking marketing communications as a whole, both media, both outdoor, both events, both experiential advertising, everybody. How do you think that the marketing communications agency can be better positioned? Mr. Ufot.
Thank you. I think we need to focus even more on the consumer. The client comes to us because he sees us as the bridge that will connect the consumer to the brand. And the deeper our knowledge and understanding of the consumer, the better we can do our work. And we must therefore find ways of continuously mining consumer insights, not just have the insights, really understand how we can use those insights to ignite the kind of passions we need to ignite with our consumers to cause them to do the things we want them to do relative to the brands we are marketing. So agencies at whatever level, whether it's events, need to understand more deeply their consumers and find ways, develop tools for better engagement. Or else, once we lose touch with those consumers, we are done. We are done. We'll also lose relevance with our clients. So I think that all agencies need to be, put in place things that will ensure that they better connect with their consumers. Seek more knowledge, seek understanding, and continue to mine knowledge so they can put that to good use in selling to their consumers.
Thank you, sir. Before Mr. Akinwunmi will go ahead, I'd like to introduce a few people who are here with us. And please start preparing your questions. In the next 3 to 4 minutes, we'll start taking questions. You just simply put your questions in the chat box and we'll call you to ask the question. But please drop the question in the chat box. There are actually a lot of people here, and if I do not probably mention your name or recognize you, my apologies. You can send me a personal message. We have Mrs. Temitope Jemerikbe, she's the COO of DKK. We have Mr. Lankwe Omoyele, CEO of Nitro 121. We have Mr. Sam Osunsoko, CEO of Cognitive. We have Mr. Shola Yetayo. Mr. Shola Yetayo, by the way, is a lawyer, but I would like to call him an advertising lawyer. He's very close to the industry. Sorry, he's an accountant, I beg your pardon. But I'd like to call him, he's very close to the industry.
He's an accountant, yes.
Yes, I missed that earlier. So he's close to the industry, so he's like an adopted advertising practitioner. And we have a whole lot of people that we cannot mention. Please send me a private message if I haven't seen your name. We have Yemi Arawore here as well, and so many other people. So if you have your questions, please put them in the chat box while we go to Mr. Lolu Akinwunmi to share with us how the industry can be repositioned.
Okay. I think how the industry can be repositioned is, first of all, for the practitioners in the industry to know where we are and what we're doing. Almost on a daily basis, the profile of the profession is changing. I mean, there was a time when we had the big monolithic agency. In Liters, we were more than 200 people, and we offered all the services. Everything you could think of was under our modest roof. And then fragmentation sets in, and it keeps happening. One of the things which I think, and I'm sure that many of my colleagues are seeing it, is what I'd like to call very, very serious competition. And it is not coming from other agencies. It is not even coming from clients who have had agency experience. It's coming from areas like Anderson Consultant and PwC and Co. Why? Because at the end of the day, what all of us are selling is knowledge. How are we selling the knowledge? And they are doing things, they are operating in the digital space. They are not doing the traditional advertising. Traditional advertising is becoming casual. It's dying. I spoke with the head of one of such organizations, and I saw that in terms of strategic thinking, they were thinking, you know, they were ahead. And this is the kind of thing that we need to do to enhance our knowledge offering. You know, and except we are able to do this, nobody's going to come to you and say, I want to buy media, I want to do this. A lot of people who are creating excellent creative materials didn't even study art. Some of them were never trained as copywriters. Things are changing, and except we retool, except we totally go back to the drawing table, the kind of training we are going to be giving our people, the kind of exposure we are going to be giving to them, experiential marketing and all of these things, except we begin to invest in them, I'm afraid we're going to be losing a lot of patronage, and we're going to be losing a lot of relevance as well.
May I add a few points?
Yes, sir, you can.
Yeah, I think that the marcoms industry really is going through a phase. It's a phase of rapid change, and practitioners need to understand what these changes are and where the industry itself is going. Like Lolu said, there are people. I mean, I have today in my creative department art directors that did not read art. You know, I have young men today. Unfortunately, most of them are not in the agency fold, who, whilst I would take a brief, have a strategist, do a creative brief and give some framework to the thinking behind that brief before it's passed to a copywriter and art director team who give us the copy and give us the concept, then to media, within the creative agency. Now that process requires, at the minimum level in the current agency structure, an account handler or brand manager, a copywriter, an art director. But I can tell you that there are young men today who sit at their laptops, and once the agency will use 4 or 5 people to do the same thing over 3 weeks, these young men and women are doing the same things on their own in 2 days. In 2 days. Before, I used to laugh at them that, I mean, it can't be thorough. I'm afraid these guys are getting more and more thorough and spot on. They are shaving off the costs. They are giving our clients, if not something better, something quite competitive enough, and at the pace that agencies cannot deliver, at a cost that agencies cannot deliver. And I can tell you, if you offer a client, most clients really, 70% of the quality that the paper Garnet will do for 90, 95%. And you can give him at a price point That's almost 50% what Prima Garnet would charge for the same job. Most clients in the cost-sensitive era will go for that, 70% at half the cost. So agencies need to reinvent themselves, rethink, and move in the right directions. And one of the things I think we're going to be seeing happening, I think that there's going to be a convergence of the traditional agencies and digital agencies. There are agencies in Europe today who, by their backgrounds, are so-called traditional agencies, but most of their work is digital. So I think that for all of us, especially as you call us, for those of us ancestors, if you're going to survive, we must find a way to bridge that traditional and digital space. Because I think that the agency of the future will be that agency that is well grounded in traditional marketing comms principles, but is very familiar with the modern techniques, with dwell on technology and the like. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to frame that. I'm going to frame your last statement, sir. Okay, and I'll start with Mr. Lolu Akinwunmi this time. Knowing that the agency work is, always very time consuming. There will be days, maybe you get home at 11 p.m. Some days you don't even go at all. How have you been able to manage that with your family? Mr. Akinwunmi, sir.
Well, I think the good news, first of all, is, I can hear you. I think the good news, first of all, is that the members of my family are very familiar with the kind of work that I do. With my wife, I was already working in lean tasks, and she was familiar with the fact that I would work till 9, sometimes till 10 p.m., and even work weekends. So it just didn't happen after we had gotten married. She already saw that, and then the children came, and they too, of course, grew into that. But having said that, I think the task that advertising people, not just advertising people, there are many people who are engaged in pressure professions like ours, is to make sure that you are able to plan and share your time well enough so that work doesn't suffer, neither you have family interests that are suffering as well. You've got to be able to maintain the balance. There's a time when you must draw the line. Maybe you say that as soon as I get home, no more work. The rest of the evening is for the family, or maybe the weekend is for the family, or whatever, except, of course, you have compelling reasons not to do this. Vacation time is vacation time. If you're supposed to go for 3 weeks, 3 weeks should be 3 weeks and all that. You've got to impose a type of discipline on all of this. Otherwise, the agency business can take your time and occupy you 24 hours, 24/7. You just got to manage the business. Somebody once asked that, so what do you do about, do you have to go to nightclub and hang out? And I said, not every agency person must go to the nightclub, hang out, dinners, and all of those things come there. But there is nothing in the agency business that says that you have to return home every week at 2 a.m. If anybody says that, they are simply using a lot of commitment to your clients. You can show a lot of commitment to bonding, to socializing and all, but there has to be a line, a limit somewhere, so that your family commitments do not suffer because of the job. I think it's that simple.
Interesting. Thank you, sir. Mr. Ufot, you want to take a dive at that before we move to questions?
Yeah, I'll start with one word. The word is structure. Getting it right in terms of the work-life balance is structure. You start from the family itself. How are you structured as a family? I mean, I've been very blessed that I married my friend, and my wife loves to do the things that I do. We both love to dance. So any night clubbing, we night club together. We always nightclub together. We've been dancing together for the past 39 years, and we're still dancing. So if I need to go anywhere to dance, so I can get business to come along and dance with me. So I mean, I've structured that she appreciates what I do, and also tries to enjoy what I do. And very importantly for her, even in her law practice, I went into business first, so she could see the struggles, the challenges, and the focus. And she admired it and would say till tomorrow that the struggles of building SO&U have inspired her to also build her practice. So she admires and respects what I do and would support it. And so, but luckily for me, I mean, we have similar lifestyles. So socializing, yes, is a key part of business. When you have a wife who is not averse to socializing, it makes it easy, you know? And then, so when I talk about structure, that the household is also structured that mommy and daddy are busy professionals. And so my kids grew up with the understanding that is a time for everything. And so, for instance, my kids would know if they had to call me, there was a policy. If you must call me before 6 p.m. on a work day, it has to be damn important to call me. And so my kids will have, the first thing they say on the phone when they call you, Dad, are you busy? Can you talk? I said, fine, go on. But the point is that when you work through that, I reserved my Saturdays. On Saturdays, I had a simple, structured lifestyle. Morning into the office, and by 2 p.m., some days I would take the kids with me to the office on a weekend, give them work to do in a corner whilst I worked, so they could see I'm working. Now, when I'm done with working, I must stop on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. They call up their friends in the neighborhood. So we would drive down to home, pick up their friends who were neighbors, and we all drive down to a club. You know, take them to the club, unleash them upon the swimming pool attendant, bring up my magazines and journals, find a corner to read while they were swimming, and we're keeping one eye on them. Then we go sit down, have a drink together, eat suya, then we all drive home. But then we're always consistent that at least once a year, the wife and I go out for the kids on a holiday. So for me, it's been a structured life, and I've been very, very blessed that the wife and the kids have flowed into it, and they respect that my kids love what I do. And that's why my son, like I said, that's why all my appeals to him, that he can make more money more easily, is all bent on advertising, because he loves and admires what I do. And interestingly, my daughter too admires what her mother does, and it's also hell bent. In fact, she works today in a law firm in London. So they do that. So we've been able to create a balance. I think basically, once the home environment is conducive and we understand, appreciate each other, we'll make adjustments to accommodate. And for me, over the years, the way I have operated is that my clients are my friends, and I take my clients very personally. And so therefore, if my clients and I do business together, weekends we meet. Our wives also meet. So it helps us. If the client and I are friends and our wives are also friends, it makes things work easily for us. So in fact, part of the socializing is also getting the work done, because you are bonding and you are doing some, some high level, marketing whilst you are playing. That's how I've done it.
Interesting. Thank you, sir. And speaking of wives, Mrs. Akinwunmi is here with us. Mrs. Lolu Akinwunmi is here with us today. We have other people I'll mention as we go. I'd like Victor Nwangu to unmute his microphone and quickly ask his question. Victor Nwangu. Victor, are you still here?
Yes,
hello,
I
Victor?
am.
Fantastic. Please go ahead.
Good evening. 1 minute. Good evening, our ancestors.
Hold on, Victor. While Victor is going on, please, Olumide Adaramoye, please note that you are next after Victor. So go ahead, Victor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, our ancestors. Thank you for your time. And
good evening, my descendants.
and the immense experience you've shared with us today. So looking at the industry, I've looked at it and I'm saying, what is the minimum? So I think Uncle Ufot started with 60,000 naira. So what is the minimum capital required to set up an agency in the industry today, looking at coming back from your experience and everything? So that's basically my point, because today in the banking industry, we have different varying capital requirements. But from your experience, what is the minimum capital one would require to start up an agency of his own in the industry today? Thank you very much.
Mr. Akinwunmi will take that, but you hold the thoughts. Let Olumide Adamoye ask his question first.
Okay, you want me to wait for Olumide or to go ahead and answer that question?
Thank you very much.
You answer the question after Olumide's question. You
After
answer the
Olumide.
question, but after Olumide. Olumide, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bagbong. Good day, Mr. Akinwunmi and Mr. Ufot. I'm so happy to be here and to listen to both of you, judging from your years of experience. My question is, you pointed out things as regards the talent, the depth in talent skills, and also the fact that there is a sort of increase and demand, increasing demand in terms of talent and technology skills. So I want to ask, based on your experience and based on your wide breadth of exposure in the industry, what would you recommend as a very good system for training and developing young talent and enthusiasts to be able to gain the required skills that would help them to be able to combine both digital parts of advertising and also the traditional? What type of system would you recommend? Did you get that?
Yes, we got it. Thank you for that. So Mr. Akinwunmi will take the first question. That's Victor's question, while Mr. Udeme will take the second question.
Okay. Thank you, Victor. Udeme started with 60,000. 60,000 when it started didn't. I mean, from everything we know, and I know quite a bit about SO&U. Everything he has told you today is true. He didn't buy much. When we started, we were hoping to raise 2 million, but we managed to raise 600,000. And after we bought odds and bits and pieces, some second-hand air conditioners and all that and stuff. And after we paid the first month's salary, all we had left was trudged up. I said, "Sir, this is what is left. What are we going to do?" I said, "Don't worry, my friend. We have 26 days before the next payday." And the man looked at me and shook his head. He had never worked in an agency. So technically speaking, there is no limit. What is going to determine your kind of capitalization is going to depend on the scope of your business. What type of agency are you hoping to run? Do you want to run a full service agency that has everything from day one? Do you want to run a type of agency that probably would not be, focused on strategy and creatives and all? Where do you want to locate? What quality of people do you want to bring in? There are many things that go into setting up a business, and the same things affect. Clearly, if you want to set up your office and be in VI, you are going to need to spend more money than someone who wants to set up an agency around the house, around the outskirts like Agege and all that, so a lot. You need to work, but one advice I'd like to give is you need to work with a very competent financial services person, experienced people like one of them who is here with us, Mr. Shola Oyetayo. And Shola, this is free advice, to guide you through. You are going to need that kind of guidance. The kind of vision you have is going to depend on your type of agency, and that will depend on the kind of structure. There is no minimum. There is no minimum, and seriously, there is no maximum. Some agencies start with brand new cars. Some don't have cars. Some hire photocopiers. Some don't even have any and all that. So quite a lot of things go into determining about how much capital, the minimum capital that you need to start with.
We're going to send Mr. Shola Oyetayo a bill for the advertising after this session. Okay, Mr. Ufot, please go ahead.
Thank you.
Quickly.
Yeah, to look at this question, I mean, I think I wanted to know generally, from my understanding of his question, the best system for training and developing talent in the industry. Over the years, I have adopted a rather radical approach to training. With all due respect to training organizations, but I've discovered from personal experience that sometimes when you send staff to many of the external training programs, we have a lot of people packaging training programs on a more general note. They just guess what they think agency people will need or what agencies need, and they package programs. And most of the time, I guess they get it right. But I've learned that in my own agency, at any point in time, my agency has special needs and there can be issues arising. It could be the fact that agency has grown rapidly over time. And a guy that is equipped to manage just 2-3 people now has himself managing 6-7 people. It requires different skills, different managerial skills, different leadership skills. And so if you are not focused enough to understand the needs of your staff through an effective HR, in essence you call it human interest structure, you keep sending people out to external training programs. They attend those programs, you spend lots of money as participation fees, but they come back not really equipped to solve your problem. So what we do at SO&U, we tend to focus more on in-house training programs. You know, we work with training experts, and we've also tried to build those skills within the agency, where we sit down and, in fact, after every appraisal, the head of human interest admin submits to me a report of the key needs and challenges of every staff on the agency. It takes a while to read it. Now, based on that reading, we will now decide in the coming year or in the next 6 months, what kind of training program do they need? What am I saying here? I cannot say that one size fits all. What agencies need to do is to say to themselves, my brand management team have these challenges and we need to fix those challenges. Or in fact, at the very basic level, once anyone arrives in SO&U and comes to brand management, what must he know at the very basic level? And we put that training in place. At different times, we have run in-house training programs, working with Chris Ogbeche in a crash course on marketing, not just for our brand management people, for the entire agency. Even our directors had to sit through a marketing program. Because like I said, they are not Benenwangu or Picasso. They are there to do marketing in art direction. So they need to understand marketing. At another time, we brought in the prof himself, Chris Dewuji, to take the agency team through a crash account management program. The processes, you know, what works, what doesn't work. So what we try to do, and I would advise this, agencies must first and foremost take the time to know their people, their capabilities, and the gaps in their skill sets, and think of how to bridge those. And there are resources all over the place. One thing we've also done very well that in building our relationships, friendships, we are not averse to having an effective in-house monthly seminar where people come in and speak to our people on different subject matters. One thing I've learned is that you want to have a good agency person, have a good guy. So our people are trained to be great people, great art people, and then great art directors, great account managers, or great copywriters. But we want to have the best people. So the training is supposed to develop people 360 degrees, that they are well-rounded, because there's no point having an account manager who is the key liaison person between agency and clients, who must socialize, but who has no social skills. If you are the most strategic person, you are the most hardworking, if a client will not go out for a drink with you, or even not even a drink, if the client will not sit with you in a non-work conversation to connect with you, I'm afraid, from my own understanding, you can't go far. You can't win friendships. You can't win loyalty. Winning client loyalty goes beyond just doing the work. It's about relationships. And I think that the more rounded people are, the better they can build and sustain relationships. So, question is simply, how do we ensure that people get the best training and development programs? All must be tailor-made. What is the need? Who is the person? Group them, and then bring in place programs that will speak to the different needs. You know, not one size fits all. It has to be tailor-made to address specific needs. And of course, and when you know those needs, you know who can provide faculty for those things. At the very early stages, SO&U needed to build business skills. And the best place to go to for me was Lagos Business School. I had to go sit in a class, and when you go to the LBS, it doesn't end in the program. There's a continuous learning program whereby virtually every month there's one seminar or the other that you can attend for free that continuously shapes your business understanding, your business leadership and management skills.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Ufot. We have a lot of questions, so I'll appreciate if we can actually just take the answers in 2 minutes so that we can take questions. So for those who would like to join the brief faculty, we have shared the link in the chat pane, so you can simply click the link and join. While Rotimi Adeyemi, can you please unmute your microphone and ask your question? Rotimi Adeyemi, are you there? Still with us?
Hello.
Yeah, ask your questions very quickly, please.
Okay. Good evening, my mentors.
Evening.
I'm so sorry. I'm in a public place trying to fix something. My question is, how can the mentors help to push for phishing fees by clients? And secondly, can you help us to compare local content in marketing communication compared to where you started? Thank you, sir.
I didn't get the first question, please. I didn't get the first question.
So the first question is, how can mentors help to make pitching fee a standard in the marketing communications industry?
Pitching fees, right?
Yes, how to make pitching fee standard in the marketing communications industry. And Mr. Ufot will take that. Mr. Akinwunmi will take, how will you rate local content in the marketing campaigns we do now compared to when marketing communication started? So, I mean, how would you rate the local content in the campaigns we do now compared to when marketing communication started or when advertising started? So, Mr. Ufot, please go ahead, and I'll appreciate if we can take this in 2 minutes each so that we can take other questions.
It's going to be difficult. I can't kid you. It's going to be difficult to standardize pitch fees. Let's face the reality. We are currently in a buyer's market. Too many weak and desperate agencies looking for opportunities to show what they can do and make a living, all living on a shoestring. So I can assure you that if the agencies today, sometimes like ourselves, who will insist that if you're coming for a pitch, if there are no pitch fees, we don't play. But the client said, okay, no problem. Go. That means you intend to lose the pitch. Eh? That's why you're making a fuss about pitch fees. So the challenge here is that we need to reinvent, refocus, reposition our industry to earn the kind of respect that we ought to earn from our clients, you know, and then we can begin to call the shot. But right now, I'm afraid the clients are calling the shots, and we will find it very difficult to insist on pitch fees. That's the reality for me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Akinwunmi, the second question.
On local content. See,
yes, sir.
Yeah, many years ago, before now, local content in what later developed to become Nigerian advertising was quite high. And you know, I can name so many campaigns, you know, that I still remember growing up. Essentially, the key focus was on radio. radio was holding all of the attention. And I still think Nigeria probably produces some of the best radio commercials. But inevitably, as globalization came in, it brought a lot of good and it brought a lot of dilution as well. And one of them is in the area of creativity. And sometimes I wonder if extensive damage has not been done to our ad industry. Sometimes I watch some of the ads and I ask myself two questions. What are they saying? Who are they talking to? Are they still talking to Nigerians with all of these foreign and affected accents? They are talking and you don't know what they are saying. But in terms of creative content, can Nigerians connect with all of these things that I'm seeing on television, that I'm hearing on radio? Unfortunately, nobody can legislate local content. This is not the oil industry. It has to be something that clients must understand, that every advertising is not for the managing director, client managing director, it's not for the marketing director, it's not for the marketing manager, it's for people out there. Sometimes agencies present to clients and you hear, I don't like it. And I say, but this ad is not for you. If you want to know whether it's good or not, take it out there, test it, and if it resonates, then it will work. And except we continue to maintain this type of rigorous discipline, everybody wants to run an ad that you look at what South Africa is running. Sorry, I've got to take 1 minute. I went for the advertising festival in Cannes, and I sat and I looked at the countries that were winning, including India. And later I was having a discussion with some of my colleagues. Every agency that won from American, British, Indian, was because the local cultural content was high. We are losing all of this in our campaigns, and it's a shame. We think we are looking hip. The banks are doing all kinds of things that they are doing, but we are losing a lot of value in the area of local content creation. Let me stop there.
Thank you, sir. So Charity has a question. Charity, can you unmute your microphone, please?
You've
Charity
got to reverse it.
Yes, we will. And I mean, that's why we're having this discourse, so that the young people in the industry can, hear from the ancestors and then take some of the learnings from what you've just shared with us. Charity, please. Charity, are you still with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for this forum. It's been a great learning experience. I've unfortunately, or fortunately rather, seeing that it's something that I'm passionate about, been in the industry for about 20 years. And in that time, I've seen a lot of questioning of our value proposition as an agency. And every time it comes down to talking about our retainers and how much we charge as agencies, there's a continual negotiation, and we're always on the losing front. And at the same time, we're finding a lot of consultants chipping away at our value as agencies and taking away our businesses. My guarantee is that a client will not go to a Deloitte or an Accenture and negotiate their costs. So how do we as an agency to basically keep our sustainability going forward? How do we go and reinvent how we present ourselves as an agency, or reinvent our pricing models so that we're not constantly in this battle of chipping away at our value proposition or chipping away at our profits every time we talk to client about what we are actually costing?
Thank you, Charity. Mr. Akinwunmi, please take this question.
Okay, thanks, Charity, for the question. By the way, Charity was my colleague. We worked in Ogilvy together. It's a very important question, but it comes to one simple issue. If you look at the structure of most of the financial company that you mentioned, see PwC and all of them, they charge per hour, and nobody argues with them. But they've got one good thing going for them, and I had a joint session with them. It is mandatory for every company to audit its account and present an audited account at the end of 12 months in Nigeria. It is not mandatory by law for any client to work with an agency. They don't have to. And because they need to go through that route, it strengthens the PwCs, the accounting it strengthens them a whole lot, and very few of them are really good and professional. So everybody wants to work with the good and professional ones, because the whole issue of law is there. They got that going that we don't have. Secondly is, how do we begin to, I mean, there's a question that Udeme just answered now on pitch fee. There's a time I remember when I was president of the association, and we said every agency must insist on pitch fees. But some agencies will go behind and say, don't mind them, we'll do these things free of charge, which means that there's still a very loose link between who we are and the value of the services that we offer. And unless we tighten this, it's going to be extremely difficult. But one thing is sure, we're going to have to maintain this for a long time. Clients come, I remember when we were working on the Coke account, and we had agreed a fee for, don't do that to their accounting firms. They hardly do that to their lawyers. So it's something we've got to sit down and look at the value. Why are they doing this to us? The service we are doing, and be able to afford those accounting firms. So why are they responding this way to us? Those are issues which I think we don't have enough time to discuss at this forum.
Thank you, sir. Olatubosun, you have a question? Bosun, are you still here? If Tubosun is no longer here, then Kunle Arofin, please ask your question. Kunle Arofin, please unmute your microphone and ask your question.
Okay, the question I have was initially directed at the two of you, but I think now I'm going to have to focus on Mr. Ufot. And that is, in terms of succession, when do you see yourself pulling out and handing over to the next generation? Thank you.
I can go now, Kunle?
Yes, sir, you can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Maybe I should start by asking a question. Who's in a hurry to fire me? Well, I mean, on a more serious note, everything calls for a strategy. At the risk of sharing with you in the open what we do at SO&U domestically, the agency is currently structured into the holding company, which is SO&U Group, which I run. And then all the other divisions are run by COOs. So effectively, all I'm doing in the agency today is like a choir master. I conduct, and everyone does their stuff. And that for me is the first step to this engagement. It amounts to abdication. When you just bring in people and you step back or you walk away. You must put people in place, mentor, coach, lead, guide. They make their mistakes, you help them to correct those mistakes, and you work with them. And that's the way it's going to be. My role today in SO&U is largely, I mean, you'd rarely see me in any client meeting except some very, very powerful clients insist that because I am, the next thing to, the GMD must be at the meeting. Then I will oblige because I'm in a service business. But most of the time, the guys are running the show. Mine is to give guidance. I've adopted a more mentoring role now. So, and I think I've really been enjoying this working from home situation. So I've told my guys, apparently when it's all over, I may be coming into the office 2-3 times a week, and I work from home and enjoy myself. I've earned it. So very soon you'll see me take the back seats. Don't be in a hurry. But I'm enjoying myself. I enjoy what I do.
Okay, there's a question from KO. KO, are you here, or would you like me to read your question? KO, are you here? Okay, I'll just read his question. He said, I'm a senior creative person where I work. with obvious ceiling on career path within the Nigerian creative industry, what would you advise? Should I branch out and start my own agency, or wait and outgrow where I work? Would you like me to take that again? And I'd like Mr. Akinwunmi to answer this. So would you like me to take that again? So it says, I'm a senior creative where I work with obvious ceiling on career path within the Nigerian creative industry. What would you advise? Should I branch out and start my own agency, or wait and outgrow where I currently work?
Yes, you can. Actually, I think you should.
I think we lost Mr. Akinwunmi there.
See,
Mr.
thanks.
Okay.
The whole issue of starting your agency. Can you hear me now?
Yes, very clearly.
Okay,
yeah.
the whole catered on how many years you have spent where you are working now. Yeah, it's got to depend on many things: your vision, your ambition, your motivation, so many things. Everybody cannot run an agency. Everybody cannot. I didn't even know I was going to start an agency at all until there were issues when I was in Promosab. I just wanted to happily grow in Linters and get to whatever position I could. So, KO, sit down and ask yourself what you really want to do. Not everybody also has the ability to run an agency. When you see successful agencies, I promise you, there are so many things that go on behind that will scare you. If Udeme and I were to use the next 2 hours talking about challenges that we face and have managed, you would perish the idea of starting an agency. So sit down. If you really want to run an agency, find out what is your motivation. Find out what is involved. Do your homework very well. Otherwise, you start the agency and you will not. Agon?
I'm here. I can hear you. I can hear you, sir.
Hello.
I can hear you, and I'm sure a lot of people can hear you as well.
Yeah, I think I'm done with that. Let the gentleman. Yeah, let the gentleman. Yes. I think I've answered this question.
Okay, so there's one last question. Somebody said many agencies close shop due to bad economy, and then it happens very often. Lack of continuity plan and all of that. What plan and structure do you have in place to make your agencies live beyond you? See, a lot of agencies close shop due to lack of continuity plan and bad economy. What plans have you put in place to make your agencies live beyond you? Mr. Ufot, sir.
Well, it is not unique to agencies. I look back, we've had SO&U for the last 30 years. We've had Prima Garnet for about as long. I do know that I've had a few clients in other sectors who didn't last 5 years. Some lucky, I lasted 10 years. So, not being sustainable is not unique to advertising agencies. Maybe because of our weak capital base, we made it more vulnerable. But the most important thing for all businesses is to think long-term. From the first day you start, what structures are you putting in place that will ensure that the agency will outlive you? I think that for one, ensuring that people who work with you have some sense of belonging. The agency is not just about you, it's about us. People feel that, yes, I can be a part of this, I can grow. And so therefore, I've been very, very lucky that if you look at the agency top team in SO&U, the average tenure in the agency is between 15 and 20 years. None of our COOs has spent less than 10 years in SO&U group. So, and they have a reason for staying there. So I think what you need to do is, how do you unlock that unique appeal that will make people stick with you and see that their future is connected to the future of the agency? Once you've been able to connect that, you can pull back, and by God's grace, because yes, it is God's grace, you are lucky, they can carry on with you and after you. But if it's all about you, when you are gone, the agency will go with you.
Interesting. Thank you, sir. And the person who actually asked that question is Adedeji Ademiguchi. That's the person who asked that particular question. So there's one other question here from Notik Bello. I did promise that that was going to be the last one, but this is an interesting one, and I'd like to hear it as well. And he says, how does agency affiliations work? Like Ogilvy, Prima, Garnet, SO&U, Sache, you know, how does it work? Inside Gray, which is now Inside Publicis, how does it work?
Who goes first?
I think we lost Mr. Akinwunmi there, so please go first before he comes back. I'd like both of you to actually speak to that because you have different affiliations or used to have.
I think the most important thing about agency affiliations is that you get what you want. Sometimes out of inexperience, you may expose yourself to being exploited, to being walked all over. And I can tell you, I had a relationship with Y&R. It was disastrous, but I held my ground and I quit. Even though they now said that they sacked me, but I quit. Because I mean, it was all shit, really. I mean, over the years, I was with Sachi and Sachi, and we had our ups and downs. But I can tell you that if you're looking for an affiliate relationship, nobody is coming with you without a game plan. So you must have a game plan. You must have a game plan. What do you want from the network? Because they want something from you. They want something from you. And you must therefore ensure that in the course of your relationship, you must offer value. If what you are doing, like most agencies I seem to see do, is that once I have this affiliation, they'll bring to me the big global brands. So you are looking for handouts, and they're going to kick you about. Take that from me. Well, Lolu has the rest of the story, but what I can tell you is not a joyride. If you are not bold, if you are not firm, and if you are not showing value, if the affiliate network does not feel that they have something to lose by you walking out of the relationship, they will mess you up.
Talking about it.
Yeah, and I've had very bad experiences of some people who had those challenges. Mr. Akinwunmi, please, I'd actually like you to speak to this. Are you here, sir?
I think we lost him again.
Okay, when he comes, he will speak to that. But let me ask them one more. Lere Bale from Business School Netherlands International. I saw you earlier. I was going to actually introduce you. If you are still here with us, can you please unmute your microphone and ask your questions? Lere Bale from Business School Netherlands International. Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Greetings to Udeme. I wanted Lolu, my good friend. I wanted to find out what is the future of advert agencies, considering the fact that under the current fragile world, there appears to be significant increase in outsourcing from agencies themselves. And the agency's role is changing from what it used to be, the traditional role, what it used to be in the 80s. It's been replaced with consultancy, broad-based consultancy in brand building, not just advertising, as well as the issue of production, supervision of production of material. And all this you can supervise from your office, which means the old one room arrangement is possible. And so right from your table, you can outsource a lot of things and supervise the quality that the clients want. So what do you see as the future for advertising agency? Is it more of standalone or more of mergers and acquisition with the peripheral aspect of marketing that will ensure that you are playing more role as consultants rather than producers, really? I just wanted to know your view. I'm not, I mean, you are in a specialized area of marketing. I'm just a student of marketing who just needed education. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ufot will answer that, but I'd like Mr. Akinwunmi to answer the question about affiliations first before Mr. Ufot will take that. And that will be our last question for today.
Okay. So very quickly on affiliation, I think it's very clear that it depends on what you are looking for in the relationship. And the strength of that relationship is going to determine the kind of influence you can exert on the partnership. It's a partnership. And if you're coming in weak, if you're coming in just looking for big clients, like Udeme said, they can see this a mile away and they'll treat you that way. They'll come one day and say, we want majority interest. If you don't give us, we are going to take that account from you. We were in court for 5 years with our former foreign partners. And I can write a whole book on this. But affiliation is good. It's got its good part. It's got its not so good part. But in the last couple of years, there's a new group of agencies called independents. And the last 3 Cannes Award events that I went for, they were taking a whole lot of Cannes Awards, which means that affiliation is no longer a condition for success in the business. It helps, but a lot of the values that we were getting through affiliation, you can get through 3rd and 4th and 5th parties now. There's a whole lot of fragmentation. You don't need to belong to any network to enjoy the benefits of being in a network, training, account, and all that. I think the best thing you need to do as a local agency is to strengthen yourself. If you are very strong in your local market, you will outperform any agency that is affiliated. I think that is all I want to add to it.
Thank you. Mr. Ufot, please, the question from Larry Bale.
Right, thank you, Chief Bale. The industry is evolving. I've said it's evolving, and agencies must adjust themselves to evolve accordingly. And I said this earlier. You will find that the client needs will dictate where agencies would go. But what is most important is that agencies must at all times endeavor to show clearly what value they are offering to their clients. And one of the things that we must be able to articulate very clearly is that, we do such great work for our clients, but I'm not sure that most agencies ever sit down to think that what really is my value proposition to the market? Why should the client work with me? And once you understand clearly why the client should want to work with you, you then begin to work towards ensuring that those things that will attract that client are in place in the agency. So it's up to agencies to ensure that they do those things that will draw clients to them. The consultants may challenge us in some way, but I think agency is still the key repository of top quality creativity. And it's not about just buying a creative person and putting in the organization. If it were as simple as that, many client organizations who have in-house agencies will still not be hiring agencies on the outside. The truth is that the agency environment itself is actually conducive to creativity. It's a mindset. There are environments where the mindset is, how much money did you make today? How much money can we make tomorrow? It's not exactly conducive to creativity. And creativity needs some leadership, needs inspiration. I think somehow the agency still provides that. But what is important is that agency leaders themselves must begin to evolve and recognize the changes that are coming and position themselves to take advantage of those changes so they will survive. I repeat, it's not unique to agencies. The banks in Nigeria are evolving. The banks that we see today are not the banks of yesterday. And I can assure you, those banks of today will not be the banks of tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This has really been an inspiring session. And can we just give an applause to our guest who we've had here today? And even the one for September is going to actually also be a bumper, so stay tuned and join us. We've had as well with us Mr. Shola Adegoriye, Company Secretary of Prima Garnet Africa Group. We've had IDN as well here today. We've had a whole lot of people here with us today, and thank you to everyone. Even though I've not mentioned your name, it's not because I didn't see you, it's because we have almost 100 people here. It's almost impossible for me to mention everybody who's been here. And it's been great meeting you, Mr. Udeme Ufot. I've heard so many things about you, and it's been a pleasure. And of course, the stories I heard weren't wrong at all. It corroborated with how you've spoken to us today.
Thank you, Agbon.
Thank you very much to my former boss, always my boss, Mr. Lolu Akinwunmi. I appreciate you for your time. And I'd like to thank everyone who took out time to be here. We wouldn't have been here without you, because if it had been just Mr. Lolu, Mr. Ufot, and I, we wouldn't have been able to, speak to anybody. And of course, our very chief supporter, Mr. Lankwe Omoele, who is here with us all the time, always guiding us and always helping us. And a big thank you to the Senate of the Brief Faculty. Ademola Adeshola is here, Lanre Basamta, Wale, and all the others, all the other members of the Brief Faculty Senate. Thank you very much. And we'll have the recording of this for you to watch, subsequently. So just look out for the link and we'll share that. Thank you. Have a very great evening. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Yes.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye, sir.
Bye.
Bye, Mr. Bala. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Bye-bye, sir. GMD, sir. Good night, sir.
Good night. Good night.
Yes,
Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Shola Yetayo.
Thank you.
Maybe you should unmute your microphone and just say hello, Mr. Yetayo.
Yes, sir.
Hello, bye-bye.
Hello, sir. It's a pleasure to meet you
Shola,
again.
you're all gray now. What happened to that? You're all gray.
The more money he makes.
Counting too much money.
I don't have money like you to shake.
This is actually tea time. You can also, show your videos, unmute your microphone and say hello to, that very person you've been wanting to say hello to.
Okay. Great.
Sasheye Kosoko, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Udeme. Thanks for inviting me, sir.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. Guys, thanks for having me.
Thank
It's
you.
great time spent with you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. It was a very nice
Mrs.
program.
Agbon, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.
Peter Ogbara, thank you. Chuk Sam, thank you. Gift Nyawane, thank you. Imana Ike, thank you. Polu Olatuja, thank you. Ibukun Falokpe, thank you. Jadesola, thank you.
Adubi, thank you. I can see you.
Yes, sir. Okay. That's cool.
Ibitayo, thank you. Abiola Ayajumo, thank you. Peter Okpara is here, member of the Senate of the Brief Faculty, thank you. Muslima Yusuf, thank you. Bye, everyone.